Welcome back. Time now for some news by the numbers. First, 19. That is how many states increased minimum wage yesterday. Restaurants quickly passing the cost on to you. Some already changing menus to hike those costs. Next, $2.4 billion. That's how much money Mexican citizens living in the U.S. sent across the border in the month of November, according to Mexican Central Bank. During his campaign, President-elect Trump threatened to block money transfers unless Mexico pays for that border wall. And finally, $1.7 million. That's how much money Jill Stein will get back for her failed presidential recount in Wisconsin. She says donors will decide what to do with that refund. How nice of her. Steve, over to you.
Thanks, Abby. The 115th Congress meeting today at high noon for the first time, and its members have a long to-do list. But after lawmakers gavel in the new session, what should be the focus of their first 100 days? Everybody's talking about the first 100 days. Pollster Frank Luntz has some brand new polls on what voters want from Congress. He joins us right now from our nation's capital. Good morning to you, Frank.
Good morning and Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. So many people have been talking about Obamacare. The Republicans want to repeal and replace it. In your polling, what have you found the people of the United States want?
The people do want Obamacare repealed, but they also want an alternative put in its place.
Okay.
In fact, it's not just that the Republicans, you can see overwhelming, 96-4. They want to get rid of it with a different plan. But look at the Democrats, 84-16. They want to keep Obamacare. The key column that you want to look at are those swing voters. By 3-2, they want to replace it. So this is clear for the GOP, and they have about 60 days to do it. The Republicans who voted for Donald Trump are expecting action on Obamacare, and they want it quick.
Now, when you say 60 days, is that from you or is that from the people? Because you also asked how long should the transition period be to replace Obamacare. And I noticed that the biggest number here is at the bottom, 28%. About 30% of people say take as long as it's going to take to make it right.
And that's exactly the difference. There's the repeal part that they want to do quickly. The replace part, they're prepared to wait a year. If you added it all up, half of Americans will wait a year to make sure that it's done step by step. They don't want any mistakes. They don't want it rushed. They don't want it politicized. They want personalized, a human approach to health care, and they expect Republicans to fix the mistakes in Obamacare, both make it more affordable, give people control, and give people the choice of health care that they deserve. And they have a year to do it.
Okay, a year to do it. All right, meanwhile, and we don't have a graphic for this, but the other big thing that was talked a lot about during the campaign is tax reform. What do you think is going to get done, and what do people want?
Well, they want to close all the lobbyist loopholes. They want to close the bailouts, the handouts.
Yep.
They want to do to the tax code exactly what they hope will happen to the budget, which is to go line by line, do a forensic audit of our tax code and get rid of all those giveaways and get rid of all those handouts and simplify the code so that the average hardworking American who plays by the rules will not be punished by the IRS. And once again, this does not have to be done in the first 100 days, but voters do expect this to happen in 2017.
Okay, the final one of the polls that we've got graphics for, should people, what do you want done by your elected officials? Do you want them to compromise or stand up for the principles? And what do people say?
Well, this is one of the great challenges that the GOP face, because Republicans, Trump voters, want them to be principled and don't want them to give in. And that's by a 3-to-2 ratio. Look at Clinton voters. They want compromise by almost 2-to-1. And overall, a willingness to compromise actually still beats the courage to stand up for their principles. So my advice to the GOP, stay the course. You know what you promised the American people during the election. You have to deliver it, some within 100 days, some within the first year.
Yeah.
But listen and learn from the voters and be their voice in Washington. If the Republican majority is the voice of the American people in Washington, they will be returned to office.
Just like that. And regarding drain the swamp and the things that Donald Trump said out on the stump before he was elected president of the United States, people want that stuff, and now they want Congress to get, today at high noon they're going to convene. They want Congress and the president-elect to work together to make America great again, right? I mean, ultimately, I know it's a catchphrase, but that's really what people are sold on.
Yeah, but 3 words. Get it done.
Get it done.
That should be the watchwords of Congress starting at 12 noon today.
It's also, I think, the buzz phrase of Larry the Cable Guy. I think it's get her done, but the message is the same, right?
Well, I like Larry the Cable Guy. But I'm surprised that you watch him, Steve.
What are you kidding?
I would have thought you would have been much more of a PBS kind of guy than a Larry the Cable Guy.
Yeah,
but hey,
right.
It works for everyone.
I've been on cable for 25 years. I'm with Steve the Cable Guy. All right, Frank Luntz, the pollster guy. Thank you very much. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
You bet. All right, straight ahead, one town not culturally diverse enough for the mayor. His solution, bring in a bunch of Syrian refugees, and the people there in his town not happy about it. And is President Obama's senior advisor trying to rewrite history?
The president prides himself on the fact that his administration hasn't had a scandal and that he hasn't done anything to embarrass himself.
Well, the man who has sued the administration many times over begs to differ on the fact that the Obama administration had no scandals. He is straight ahead. 7:30 in New York City. We've got a Fox News alert for you right now. Breaking: President-elect Trump just tapped lawyer Robert Lighthizer as U.S. trade representative.
Yeah, breaking right now. Mr. Trump saying, quote, he has extensive experience striking agreements that protect some of the most important sectors of our economy and has repeatedly fought in the private sector to prevent bad deals from hurting Americans.
The choice is a sign Mr. Trump's team is doubling down on his proposed trade policies and a tougher stance with China. So,
all right, let's bring in Ed Henry.
Good to see you. Good morning.
Who's spent a lot of time on the couch last week.
You know, by the way, I have something I want to show you.
Oh, no, don't do
I got
it.
for Christmas.
Don't do it.
This is the greatest Christmas gift ever. First of all, it's a pocket square that I got in a Secret Santa when I was hosting for you. And Abby Huntsman's on there. And so you got the eyes of Abby. I put in there, but for you.
Yes.
Peter was here. And so you got the mane of Peter Ducey. I don't know if they... Oh, there they are. They can see it right there. The mane.
Isn't that special, Steve?
How cool is that? And Rick Reichenmuth as well.
Peter has his own Twitter account. Oh, he didn't start it. Peter's hair has a Twitter account. Amber Waves of Maine or some.
I can't believe you pulled that back out, Ed.
I like to do that.
What are you supposed to do with that?
You know, I was going to blow my nose, but I don't want to do that on Peter's face.
I understand.
But yeah, you know, it's funny because the New York Times, week one of the Trump transition, said transition in disarray. Yeah. And here we are.
Which part?
Well, they've been naming all of these people.
Yeah.
They've been getting pretty good reviews, even from Democrats. You have that target list that you've been talking about all morning. This happens every 4 years, basically, where one side or the other says, we're going to go after these guys. And you know what? With the number of votes that Republicans have in the Senate, they're going to get these folks through, barring something we don't know today.
Sure.
And that can always happen. Someone can pull out and say, I didn't want to reveal this about my finances or some other thing. But at the end of the day, Donald Trump is very likely to get his team in place. And this talk at the beginning by the mainstream media about transition and disarray is now kind of laughable.
And how likely is it that they would be successful in this opposition? I mean, historically speaking, is
it's rare. I mean, you have to go back to
like
John Tower in the first Bush administration, who had these allegations of drinking and whatnot, and it became a very messy Senate battle. And rather than now, you would see in a situation like that, someone would step aside. In that case, they were determined to bring it up for a vote. He went down, as I recall.
But he was only
so rare.
He was only one guy. The Democrats are talking about trying to block 7 or 8 people, which, you know, the people watching right now all across the country, they want stuff done. They don't want one party to say, stop, we're back to gridlock. We want everything changing.
That's why, you know what Chuck Schumer's doing with that list, honestly, having covered this for a long time? He's rallying the Democratic base and saying, we're going to get these 8 people.
Yeah, but he's angering Americans who are going, hey, don't be the party of no.
But he's got to keep his base. He's got to keep them happy. Right? And then he's going to cut deals with Donald Trump on taxes and other things, very likely.
No.
So Chuck Schumer's doing a dance. And you know what? But people are tired of the dance in some respects. You're right.
He's doing it.
You know what?
It's the swamp dance.
And the drain the swamp dance. You know what? When you've been talking about this ethics office that Republicans, not Democrats, are now ripping apart and taking power out of this congressional ethics oversight situation, that's the kind of thing that can blow up in their face after this last election, because people want to see change. And whether it's Democrats or Republicans in Washington that are watering things down, that could boomerang them, especially if President-elect Trump decides to send out a tweet saying, that sounds like a dumb idea. I haven't seen him do it yet. But he might turn on some Republicans who, if he feels like they're not draining the swamp, they're playing with fire.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, because we're talking about politics here. And, of course, Senator Schumer's going to do this, because with Democrats, that's all you have right now. They don't have control of anything this time around. But the question is Republicans. Will there be any Republicans in Congress that push back on any of these appointments? Do you see any that are going to be tough that may not make it through in the end?
I think Tillerson for Secretary of State, because of his ties to Vladimir Putin. You've heard people like Marco Rubio saying friends of Vlad are not such a great idea in the cabinet. But does he end up pulling back on that? Does he hear from his constituents in the end, number one, that like, you know, hold off on that, number one? But number two, Tillerson's got an incredible resume. You don't run Exxon, you know, without, you know, really attaining not just power but success. And so, look, again, barring something we don't know today about those ties to Vladimir Putin, something that's unsavory we don't know. Just because you're friends with someone doesn't mean that you shouldn't be the Secretary of State. Sure. So.
Ed, the new Congress comes in. You've covered it. You were already seeing with this ethics rules change, some of the old business you see at times in Washington. Although Republicans are split, Paul Ryan said he was against it. Mm-hmm. What would need to happen for business as usual to change on Capitol Hill? How likely is that
This is why presidential power matters. And you know, Barack Obama was able to do that on specific issues where he picked off and said, "You guys aren't going to work with me. I'm going to go do this on immigration." And Republicans screamed and yelled about it. But you know what? Now, as president, Donald Trump has an opportunity to really use executive power, both on issues, but also by just using, you know, what used to be the megaphone, the FDR radio address. It's now Twitter, the megaphone that Donald Trump has. Again, if Republicans on the Hill are not going along for the ride, it's a free country. They can express opposition to different things that they don't like. Mm-hmm. But presidential power matters in Washington, and if he exercises it, he can
one tweet at one congressman could have, to your point. I mean,
and the Democrats, who, by the way, the Senate Democrats have way more people up for election in 2 years, okay? Mm-hmm. A lot of them are in states that Donald Trump carried.
10 senators.
By a little.
Yeah.
10 of them.
Right.
Some of them by a mile. And so if they start opposing him, it doesn't mean he's going to get everything he wants.
Sure.
But that's where what I'm saying about presidential power really matters.
They're going to have to find a way to work with him. That's a great point.
Look, he's a negotiator. He's a guy who has gotten where he is by negotiating deals, tough deals. And, you know, he's got the toughest deal.
This could be the toughest deal of all, dealing with Congress, Democrats, and Republicans.
Now, I have heard, because I've done a lot of online shopping on Amazon.com, I understand you can actually pre-order your brand new book about baseball coming out.
42 Faith. It's about Jackie Robinson. The quick story is that I found out some new information historically that Branch Rickey had second thoughts and almost didn't sign Jackie Robinson. And he didn't know if he could do it, if he could sign the first black player. He knew it was going to be very controversial, incredible civil rights move. But he went to a minister secretly to pray on it and think on it. And so that led me to go on a journey and think, well, what about Jackie Robinson's faith, which I didn't know anything about? Went to the Library of Congress. His wife and the Robinson family generously donated all Jackie Robinson's papers to the Library of Congress. I went there, found a lot of unpublished writings and other things from Jackie Robinson, where he talks very deeply about his personal life, his faith, and with the generous cooperation of the Robinson family, it's coming out April 4th, and you can pre-order it now at Amazon.com.
It's called 42?
It's 42 Faith, the rest of the Jackie Robinson story, because I found out a lot of stuff that has never been known about his faith and how important it was for him. Think about the pressure he was under in 1947. We're coming up on the 70th anniversary of his first game in this April. And faith ended up playing a major role, of course, as it does in everyone's lives, in terms of helping them. And I see you got Bobby Bowden coming up. His book is about faith as well, because I remember him as a college football coach. Faith was an incredible part of everything he did as well.
That's what he'll talk about. Just like you're reporting, you get right to the source, Ed.
I love it.
Give us the real story.
It's so nice to be on with
I love it.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, Ed.
Good to see you. Thank you.
All right, let's go over to Heather for some headlines this morning.
Yeah, Ed Henry, I can't wait to read your book. It is such a fantastic story. Last year, Black History Month told my little boys all about Jackie Robinson. What a great story. Good morning to all of you. We start with a Fox News alert and a very different kind of story right now. Right now, ISIS plotting a major chemical attack on England. That's according to the British security minister, who says that the grave warning is now out, claiming that the terror group wants to kill as many people as possible. They're now urging citizens to report any suspicious behavior to, quote, identify the enemy within. ISIS has already used chemical attacks on folks in Iraq and in Syria. Well, furious residents refusing to foot the bill for 100 Syrian refugees here in the United States. The mayor of Rutland, Vermont, now defending his decision to bring them into the United States, saying that they'll add cultural diversity to his town. Now, some residents worry that the city can't economically handle that many new people. They formed a group called Rutland First to pressure the mayor into reversing his decision. And this video will take your breath away. Difficult to see, especially if you're a parent. A 2-year-old boy pinned underneath this dresser and his twin brother coming to the rescue. I want you to know both children are okay, but you can see that little guy as he struggles to move the dresser off of his brother. He eventually manages to slide it off of him. Those children are going to be just fine. Their parents were downstairs at the time and discovered the footage on their surveillance system. After they saw the dresser tipped over, they say they were a little hesitant to post this video online, but they did it as a warning to other parents. This morning, your comments have been pouring in on this, and Abby has a look at what some parents are saying, and we're trying to figure out who made that dresser.
I mean, it's really hard to watch, Heather, as you keep saying this morning, especially with kids at home. So this is A. Rodriguez tweeting this. There's a little Superman. I love it. God bless you, little buddy.
Michael tweets us, with kids, furniture needs to be anchored to wall to avert potential fatalities. Twins have special bond, as the video shows.
Yes. I've learned that the hard way, too. If you don't fasten it, I've had a dresser fall on one of my little guys once.
Well, if you pull out more than one drawer on some of these things, it becomes front heavy and it can be disastrous.
Good for that brother, though.
Yeah,
stepping
so
in
cool.
like that.
All right, 19 minutes before the top of the hour, the eastern third of the United States is wet this morning. We've got some wild weather as well, and Janice Dean, the weather machine, is tracking it all.
It's windy out there, Janice.
It's very windy. It's the same system, unfortunately, that brought tornadoes across the south. Let's take a look at the maps. Over a dozen reports of tornadoes, 150 reports of wind damage across the deep south, and that system is on the move in towards the mid-Atlantic and the northeast over the next 6 to 12 hours. So we're going to be dealing with it here. Heavy rainfall for most, but we could see some icy weather across New England as well as some heavy snow. And then our next system moves into the west, and we're going to be watching this one because feet of snow out of this as well as inches of rain along the coast. And this is the system that actually could bring snow to portions of the mid-south. Look at the temperatures. Another Arctic cold front moving through, below zero for a lot of folks, and that's going to be ongoing throughout the week. As you see the pink on the map there, that's below zero. So again, reaching as far south as maybe the deep south this week, and that's what's going to bring a little bit of snow. Now, what are you doing here, sir?
Came here to see you.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Where are you from?
I'm from Sea Isle City, New Jersey.
Oh, my God. Well, so this isn't too bad for you.
Yeah, just.
Can I borrow your hat?
You certainly can.
Okay, fantastic.
I think you need legs, though.
Thank you. Okay. I didn't come prepared. So thank you for doing that for me. And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I got my hat. I'm doing okay. Thank you.
Go inside and get warm.
Good idea. This man is smart.
Stealing hats from the general public.
Janice, here's the thing. You're going to come inside, and he's going to stand outside in the cold, and you're going to have his hat on.
Do you mind if I steal this hat, or do you want it back?
No, you can have it.
Oh, what a sweet man. He's so nice. I'll give it back to him, I promise.
You're a national TV. Are you going to share
I
your
owe
hat
him
or not?
coffee. We're going to go get some coffee.
Janice Dean, the weather machine.
That's right.
All right, coming up is President Obama's senior advisor trying to rewrite history.
The president prides himself on the fact that his administration hasn't had a scandal and that he hasn't done anything to embarrass himself.
Well, the man who sued the Obama administration many times over begs to differ. Tom Fitton is live with a little reminder. That's up next.
And Marie Osmond, she's a little bit country, we're a little bit rock and roll. There she is with Donnie. She is in the green room on the couch. She's coming up very shortly.
Looking beautiful as ever.
Find out her connection to the Huntsman family. In 5 minutes, you're not going to hear it anywhere but right here. Donald Trump, within the last 10 minutes or so, has been tweeting. He just sent this out. General Motors is sending Mexican-made models of Chevy Cruze to U.S. car dealers tax-free across the border. Make in the USA or pay big border tax.
Yep. As you hear, Pete, as he's been doing with businesses, threatening them, saying, you're either going to work with me or I'm going to make it very difficult for you.
You know, if you're trying to reform something or change a system, oftentimes you've got to make example of particular instances or particular people at the beginning to prove it, and I think this is part of what he's doing.
We've got Laura Ingraham on. 14 minutes from now, we're going to talk to her about the brand new Trump tweet. In the meantime, no shortage of controversy for the Obama administration. During the past 8 8 years. Clinton's emailed, IRS targeting, Benghazi, just to name a few of the scandals. So what does the president's closest advisor have to say about that scandal talk?
The president prides himself on the fact that his administration hasn't had a scandal and that he hasn't done anything to embarrass himself. But that's not because he's being someone other than who he is. That's because that's who he is. That's who they are. And I think that's what really resonates with the American people.
Okay, well, our next guest calls this delusional and accuses Jared of trying to rewrite history.
Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton has sued the Obama administration many times over these reported shortcomings. He joins us now to weigh in. Tom, we had to use small font to fit all of the scandals in, yet Valerie Jarrett says there were none. How can she say that?
Well, as I said, it's delusional. He has a scandal rap sheet longer than my arm. Just the IRS scandal where you had hundreds of groups being shut down by his IRS. His Department of Justice was talking to the IRS about prosecuting these same groups. Benghazi, a real serious scandal that still has implications to this day, where he and Mrs. Clinton lied and lied again about what was behind that attack. It was not an internet video. Obviously, it was a terrorist attack. He lied to keep himself in office. And then if you have the Clinton email scandal, which he's personally involved in, he's sending emails to her directly while saying he really didn't know anything about it. You know, Mr. Obama wants to be able to leave office with a clean slate, and his administration's officials lying about his record doesn't help that. You know, remember, Obama also lied directly and personally when he said repeatedly, and he knew better, that on Obamacare, which is a big issue today, that if you like your doctor, you can keep him. That was a lie. The White House knew it was a lie. Sure. They kept on telling us that lie in order to get that agenda passed.
Well, our list we put up certainly is not comprehensive, but it's just to remind people there have been a lot of things. But you're in the watchdog business, and you have sounded the clarion call for the last 8 years, but the legacy media, you know, they're not picking up. We've reported on these things, but unless you've got the mainstream media doing the story day after day, like the way they're doing this Russian hacking thing, you know, you just don't get it. It just doesn't sink in.
Well, Fast and Furious, for instance, hundreds of Americans and Mexicans have been killed with Fast and Furious guns, and this president intervened personally to protect his Attorney General, Eric Holder at the time, from having to answer questions to Congress about this. Hundreds of people dying as a result of an Obama administration program. Is that not scandalous? Come on.
Yeah, how is that not a scandal?
Tom, quickly, what will his legacy be?
Oh, his legacy is going to be one of abuse of government, abuse of power, and a presidency run amok. And one of the reasons President Trump is going to be president is because of the record of scandal that Valerie Jarrett seems to think doesn't exist.
Great. Yeah.
Tom, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thanks,
Happy New
Tom.
Year, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, up next, the story you won't hear anywhere else. Marie Osmond's connection to the Huntsman family. And there she is. Oh, boy, this is going to be good.
Looking beautiful as ever. All right, we've been excited for this segment all morning long. She has starred in her own variety program, headlined a hit Vegas show, helped raise billions for children's hospitals. And in just a few minutes, she will add another accomplishment to her already stellar resume. Here with us to dish on her latest career milestone is singer and Nutrisystem ambassador, Marie Osmond.
Oh, my gosh, it's so good to see you.
So we go way back. We've been teasing this all morning.
I know, so like... way back.
You explain before she explains the connection to the Huntsman family.
Well, my son dated her sister, and I guess I dated
my dad.
Her father.
Whoa, wow. Okay,
so basically, she's my daughter. No,
it could be. Right? We could be sisters.
This is like an episode suddenly of Knots Landing.
This is Fox. We don't go there on Fox.
So your dad did a Marie Osmond. When would that have been?
1800s.
1800s. You never tell.
Out in you're a Utah family,
Yeah.
so that
You know,
makes
it's
perfect
funny, though.
Everybody in Utah dated each other.
My mom went on a date with your brother as well.
Oh, did he?
I'm not sure
Which
which one.
brother?
I'm not sure which one. I'm going to have to ask her after the show.
Yeah, I'm sure it was Jay.
We're all
Okay.
connected.
Okay.
I think it was Jay. I think it was
Jay
Jay.
dated the state of Utah. Okay.
When the reality is way better than the tease, that's good television.
Well, we are glad that you would come to New
And
York
I'm so
City
excited.
to get this news.
But I'm so excited she's here. She's awesome. And
She does a wonderful
the
job.
last time I saw her, we all got together and we went out. Wasn't it Christmas Day? Or Christmas Eve, and we went to a homeless shelter and fed a bunch of people and took the kids. And I mean, they're just a good family, really good family.
Well, same with you, and that's why we have you here doing so many incredible things. We see you overnight every day on the commercials. I mean, you are rocking it. You're doing your thing.
You know, it's so crazy. I can't believe it's been 10 years. And people go, really? But that's to the legitimacy of this program. You know me. I don't endorse anything I don't believe in. I do not put my name. My dad said the most important thing you have is your good name.
Sure.
But this program rocked my life. I had done everything on the planet, and they keep saying, would you like to endorse? And it's like, we just did a big TSV QVC.
Yeah.
Every single caller, I've lost 100 pounds, I've lost 70, I lost 30, I lost 90. You've changed my life, medically, physically,
Right.
you know. So I love being a part of things that bless people, you know, help
Sure.
them.
And today you're going to ring the bell down on Wall Street.
I'm so excited.
Have you done
That's cool.
Another first?
That's really cool.
Another first.
How did that come about? What's that for?
Nutrisystem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very
Ring the
cool.
bell. Well, you know, I work with a knucklehead who's no, I'm kidding.
we all?
No, but I'm so excited. It's going to be fun. And, you know, Nutrisystem has, boy, they've done a lot of things to help people. And they said, we're going to go down and do it at NASTech. And would you come down? And I said, are you kidding? Absolutely. It'd be fun.
That's great.
Very cool.
Before you go, what's the one thing diet-wise people do wrong? Because a lot of people now, New Year's resolution wants to
Ooh,
lose
that's a
weight.
good question. You know, I think what I learned is that I ate smaller portions more frequently. So I would say...
That helped you, smaller
Yeah,
portions.
you know those supersize, they do nothing but supersize you. And you don't need that. And frequently, eat frequently. I eat 5-6 times a day.
Eat more, just less when you eat.
Less when
less
you
of it.
eat, and it's like putting fuel on you know. And then the other thing is forgive yourself if you make a mistake, because most people make a mistake and they go, oh my gosh,
You're only
you know.
human.
Or they
Yeah, I know.
quit.
You look great.
Well,
You look great. Not as great as her, Dad.
Well, we played a clip of you guys, what was it, 10 years ago?
Oh, my goodness.
And you both look the exact same. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
There was a good clip
clip
of
of
you
you
two
guys 10 years
ago in an interview.
Yeah, you called them a
Lucy and
bug.
Marie.
You called them a
That's all.
You know, if you ever need anybody here to just give him a bad time, hire me for a few years.
I love it. We'll have you. Good morning. Happy Tuesday, everyone. It is January 3rd. I'm Abby Huntsman in for Ainsley Earhart this morning. We start with this. President-elect Donald Trump taking aim at another American company, and it is a big one, for outsourcing its jobs to Mexico and selling the product at home tax-free. And there is bound to be fallout on this today.
And he just tweeted again and again, and we'll tell you what those are about in a moment. Plus, he's back. Julian Assange doubling down to correct the record, he says, on the email read round the world.
Our source is not the Russian government, and it is not a state party.
Okay, so not Russia. And wait until you hear what the WikiLeaks founder says about President Obama and President-elect Donald Trump.
And remember when interim DNC chairwoman Donna Brazile said this?
I denounce Donald Trump for not denouncing the kind of vitriol, the kind of violence that he has perpetrated.
Donna is also back, and she says the Dems deserve a seat at Mr. Trump's policy table. What do Republican voters, what are they going to think about that? I think we'll have some opinions on that here this morning. Third hour of Fox and Friends, and mornings are better with you.
What a show we have had today. Thank you very much for joining us live from New York City. Now let's go down to our nation's capital. Laura Ingraham joins us. And Laura, we're going to talk in a moment about Julian Assange and the exclusive in-person one-on-one interview that Sean Hannity is going to run tonight. But Donald Trump in the last half hour has sent out 3 tweets. First one up. He tweeted 30 minutes ago, General Motors is sending Mexican-made model of Chevy Cruze to U.S. car dealers tax-free across the border. Make in USA or pay big border tax. All right, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I think Team Trump is examining the options here for companies who have been pulling this type of trick now for some time, and look for this to be a theme that they hit in the 17 days until the inauguration and then after that. So I think when people hear these stories about American companies going abroad and then getting that type of tax-free treatment coming back into the country with the product that they make overseas, it roils people on the inside. I think that people understand that we need good-paying manufacturing jobs in this country. We need to create an environment, which I think the Trump team is working on doing with tax reform, corporate tax reform, and other incentives for these companies to stay here. Of course, there's going to be regulation, but not the type of choking regulation that is really hampering business development, business creation, and businesses thriving in this country. It's a winner issue across party lines, so I'm not surprised that they're hitting it today.
Well, speaking of regulations that choke industry, he's also tweeting this morning about Obamacare. Two tweets in a row, actually. The first is President-elect tweeting, "People must remember that Obamacare just doesn't work, and it's not affordable." 116% increases in Arizona. Bill Clinton called it crazy. And then in a second tweet, he's talking about the Democratic governor of my home state of Minnesota, Mark Dayton, saying, who said famously, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, is no longer affordable, and it is lousy health care. Now, these tweets coming as Congress maybe it is looking at changes or tweaks to Obamacare. Even Nancy Pelosi hinting that, hoping Republicans don't change it. Here's what Nancy Pelosi has said about Republicans not changing Obamacare, and then we want to get your thoughts on all of that.
The fact is, it's the old thing of going into a china shop. You break it, you own it. And they're dealing with something that is very, when I say complex, it's sophisticated.
The author of Obamacare saying, you break it, you own it.
I'm trying to even diagram that sentence in the graphic. I mean, that's quite a presentation of subject, verb, direct, object. Nancy Pelosi knows that this thing is going down. I mean, in the last gasp of the Obama presidency, what they're trying to do to project forward, what they're trying to do is poison any effort to wholesale repeal it, which is going to be difficult, and it is going to take time, and then replace it. And what the Democrats will do, and that was inartfully worded by her, but what the Democrats will do is they'll say, look at all these people who got coverage. It's not perfect, but we can fix it. They want to burn it all down and then build it back up, which is just not going to happen. And I think Trump very smartly today with these tweets was trying to preempt what the Democrats will do once they hit the gavel again and are back in session. And a lot of folks make fun of the tweets and, oh, he shouldn't be tweeting. I think on this stuff, it's like a Reddit top line. You don't need Reddit when you have these tweets, because Trump says, no. People have experienced these obscene out-of-pocket costs, huge premium increases, doctors retiring, and these little bullet points are just a little triggers and reminders for people about what's happened when the government shoved through, the Obama government shoved through Obamacare with virtually no Republican support. It really, speaking of going into a china shop, I used that analogy if I were Nancy Pelosi, because there wasn't a piece of china left on the wall after they got through with their so-called health care reform.
All right, so I want to get your thoughts on this as well. An exclusive tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern on the Fox News Channel. Sean Hannity flew over to London, sat down with Julian Assange, asking him about the WikiLeaks, the big question, where they ultimately came from. Here's how he responded.
Can you say to the American people unequivocally that you did not get this information about the DNC, John Podesta's emails? Can you tell the American people 1,000% you did not get it from Russia or anybody associated with Russia?
We can say, we have said repeatedly over the last 2 months that our source is not the Russian government and it is not a state party.
Well, Nora, this comes just a few days after President Obama gives Russia essentially a slap on the wrist for what he calls involvement in our elections. What is going on here?
Well, I think we have to be taking what Julian Assange with a grain of salt. I neither have the Julian Assange as the First Amendment trailblazer view of him, or that he's only a creepy, paranoid narcissist. I think those are the two polar views of Julian Assange. He's probably somewhere in the middle. I would say that you don't have to get the information from the Russian government to have a connection to the Russian government. We know that Putin does have hackers who are loosely connected to other groups who are connected to the Russian government. Now, I'm not saying that we know this is Russia that did this. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But when he says, well, I didn't get it directly from the Russian, you think Vladimir Putin is stupid enough to get, okay, here's what we want you to do, Julian. We have this information. We're going to give it to you. So if Russia was really involved in this, they wouldn't deliver it to someone like Assange directly. It would go through webs and channels of other hacking cohorts, and then it would maybe, it would get to them that way. But so I think you have to really listen carefully to what he's saying and what he's not saying in that. So again, I'm not on the First Amendment trailblazer side of this or the creepy narcissist, accused rapist side of it. We have to look at this with a grain of salt. I think Republicans should take this soberly, carefully, but also understand that Obama has a political reason for, I think this is where Assange is right, trying to delegitimize Trump's first 100 days.
Yeah, that's well said.
Well, if the actual leaker were to come forward and say, okay, fine, I'm going to tell you, I'm the person who did it, that would settle all that. Meanwhile, let's talk a little bit about this. Donna Brazile, the debate cheater during the Democrat town halls and whatnot, she had said some incredibly pejorative things about Donald Trump, and yet she wants a seat at the table for Democrats in the first 100 days and beyond. We want you to listen to this montage and then put into perspective what she's asking for now. Listen to this.
I denounce Donald Trump for not denouncing the kind of vitriol, the kind of violence that he has perpetrated with his angry rhetoric. Since I play straight up, and I'll play straight up with you, I did not receive any questions from CNN. No, boo-boo. And next time, don't bring me no emails unless you have cleaned your system, okay? Don't bring nothing corrupting to me.
Given that all you've said about this hack, do you think Donald Trump's win was legitimate?
Donald Trump used this information in ways to also sow division. I was very disappointed, and his repeated usage of some of the stolen information, he used it as if he received daily talking points.
So is the election legit?
The election was tainted by this intrusion.
So, Laura, based on her background and the fact that she leads an inherently partisan organization by default, wanting a seat at the table, is there any way that's meant to be constructive?
Well, that's how Republicans felt about 8 years ago when Barack Obama came in and said, you know, we're going to do the stimulus and son of stimulus and Obamacare, and we're going to ram it through because, remember, Nancy Pelosi had a gavel and she was going to use it. And they thought the gavel was going to hit the Republicans, and they hit so hard that it never come back. Well, now,
huge gavel.
Wow, 8 years later, suddenly, oh, we want a seat at the table. I think one thing that we do know is that on some issues, Trump, I hope, will work with Democrats, and one of them is going to be trade. The news coming out this morning, Wall Street Journal, that Bob Lighthizer will be named as the U.S. trade representative. Phenomenal pick. Lighthizer was the deputy USTR for Reagan at a very young age.
Tough guy.
Brilliant lawyer at Skadden Arps, led the trade team there. I used to work at Skadden. I know Bob well. Phenomenal pick. Now, on trade, some of the Democrats will be able to work with Donald Trump. But for Democrats to stick out their chests and say, look, you've got to give us this voice, they didn't give Republicans a voice. And in fact, Obama looked down upon the Republicans. Remember that sniffing thing he did with Paul Ryan sitting in the front row 8 or 7 years ago? So it's always whose ox is gored in these circumstances.
Well,
poor Donna.
We had Judge Napolitano on earlier this morning, and he reminded us of something that could happen today, a loophole. What is it, a split second at noon?
That's right. However, the judge never worked at the Supreme Court, but you did. So at noon today, when the Senate technically is out of session for just a couple of seconds, do you think Barack Obama will make a recess appointment of Merrick Garland? Because that's a suggestion on the crazy, on some of the interwebs.
Yeah, well, President Obama is going to click his heels 3 times, and he will go home again to this land of make-believe. As cynical and as political, I think, as and pejorative and petulant as President Obama in many ways has been over the past several weeks, I don't even think he is capable of doing this. It would be so far out of the norm. It would not be upheld in the federal courts. I would highly doubt that he would do this. This is one of those fun fantasies being bandied about on the web and keeping legal analysts in business, I guess. But it's not going to happen.
Well, we have heard from Mr. Trump. He wants to appoint someone even before the inauguration on January 20th. Do you think that's going to happen?
I think that would be smart. Well, why not? I mean, he already has a list out. It'll be someone from that initial list that he released, people like Steve Collett and Allison Ide, a lot of great people on that list. I don't think there's any harm in it.
But, Laura, real quick, any big predictions here in the first couple of days of the Trump presidency that you're hearing about in Washington?
I think what you're going to see is swift action on and news about building the wall, on corporate tax reform, on tax simplification, and probably in the first 30 days, infrastructure, which will work with some of the Democrats on. The question Republicans are going to be asking is how are we going to pay for all this, and can we afford to do this without the booming economic growth that a lot of people think is going to come about as a result of these policies.
Quickly,
But
I think Rex Tillerson will get through?
I do. I think Tillerson's going to get through. He was the choice of Condoleezza Rice and James Baker, so a lot of conservatives saying, we like Tillerson, but what does that mean? Or the Bush is back again in foreign policy. We'll see.
All right. Look at the time. Laura, you got to go do your radio show and go edit Live Ed online.
Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year. Good to see you this morning.
Thank you. All right. Breaking political news you just heard about. President-elect Donald Trump filling in one of the final pieces of his senior team, who he just named to his administration. Who is that person? We heard a little bit from Laura. We're going to hear next from the White House.
And this is a video everyone is talking about this morning. A toddler being trapped by a fallen dresser when his twin brother jumps in to save him. You've got to see this to believe it. Stick with us.
Stand up for them.
DAV saved my life.
Please call or go online to helpdav.org right now.
Vision insurance can be hard to understand. What's covered? What's not? At VisionWorks, we take hundreds of plans, including Davis Vision. Allow us to help you get the most from your insurance benefits. And now get 50% off your second pair when you use your insurance. VisionWorks.
Fox News Channel on Sirius XM. Your favorite shows on Channel 114. Plus every story, every 15 minutes. Fox News headlines 24/7. Channel 115.
Good morning and welcome back to Fox and Friends. It's now 16 minutes after the hour. Breaking news coming in from overseas right now. Turkish media now reporting that police have just arrested at least 2 people at Istanbul's main airport in connection with the deadly nightclub massacre. They were reportedly stopped at the international flights terminal after agents searched and their phones. This, as a local newspaper says, the gunman's wife claims that she had no idea her husband was a terrorist and only learned about it from the attack on television. The 2 people reportedly moved from Turkey to Kazakhstan with their kids back in November. The terror back here country. Take a look at some of this time-lapse video from Atlanta's Jackson Hartsfield Airport, one of the world's busiest. Long lines as folks returning home from overseas. They had to be processed by hand. Tempers flaring in Miami, where lines stretched at least a quarter of a mile long. The computer outage lasted about 4 hours. Customs saying that there is no indication that the disruption.
You're a U.S. Trade Representative.
Doug McElway is live from the White House with more on who he is, this latest pick. Doug, good morning.
Morning, Steve. Robert Lighthizer appears to be tailor-made to Trump's trade agenda. He has recently worked as a lawyer representing countries in the high-tech, manufacturing, and agricultural industries. And previously, he served as U.S. Trade Representative in the Reagan administration. Upon the official announcement of his appointment, Lighthizer said, and I'm quoting now, "I'm fully committed to President-elect Trump's mission to level the playing field for American workers and forge better trade policies which will benefit all Americans." Trump has made no secret throughout the campaign and throughout the transition period as well that he is no fan of the North American Free Trade Agreement, that he rejects the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and that he wants to renegotiate bilateral trade agreements and rejects multilateral trade deals. And perhaps most controversially, he wants to punish with tariffs those countries that don't agree to restructure their trade agreements. And in that sense, Lighthizer is absolutely of a kindred spirit. He's like-minded. The Wall Street Journal said just this morning in a piece about him that Mr. Lighthizer has 3 decades of experience arguing for punitive tariffs on overseas companies. So this is his opening gambit. He's sticking to those campaign promises. Back to you in New York.
Yes, indeed. All right, Doug McElway live at the White House, where it's not a very cheery day.
No, a little rainy. Thank you, Doug. So a mid-air meltdown. It's all caught on camera as a passenger goes berserk on a flight attendant on a plane that was packed full of people. Watch this.
I'm calm as gonna be. I'm yelling at you. I'm not yelling. You want to hear me yell?
So what set this guy off? That's straight ahead.
And he's one of the most legendary football coaches of all time. Seminoles head coach Bobby Bowden joins us live to talk faith, family, and of course, football. Bobby, come on in. You're next on Fox and Friends.
Pete Stone.